You're listening to the OCD Stories podcast, hosted by me, Stuart Ralph. The OCD Stories is a podcast dedicated to raising awareness and understanding around obsessive-compulsive symptoms. I do this through interviewing inspired therapists, psychologists, and people who have experienced OCD. Welcome to the OCD Stories. And welcome to episode 368. And in this one, I got on Michael Schramm, who has kindly agreed to share his OCD story with us. Michael is someone I've known since 2018 when I first met him. So it's great to finally get him on and share his story with us. And in particular, we go into his earliest OCD memory, his varying OCD worries in childhood, getting his OCD diagnosis, getting into advocacy for OCD and what that's been like for him, doing exposure and response prevention therapy, what's helped him most recently, and much more. And thank you to NOCD for supporting the podcast. NOCD offers effective and convenient therapy available in the US and outside the US. To find out more about NOCD, their therapy plans, if they currently take your insurance, or to download their free app, head to go.treatmyocd.com/the OCD stories, or the link will be in the episode description. And thank you to our new podcast partner, JS Health Vitamins. JS Health is an Australian wellness brand. Jessica Seppel is a nutritionist and founder behind JS Health, and also a dedicated listener to the OCD Stories podcast. In fact, she says it changed her life, and she found her therapist through our podcast, which she's been seeing for almost 3 years. Jess has always been very open about her mental health journey, including anxiety and pure OCD, and is passionate about opening up this conversation and supporting her community to feel healthy, happy, and confident. This level of care that Jess has is really what sets JS Health Vitamins apart. Their range of vitamin formulas are solution-focused, meaning they are designed to target your main health concerns and support a whole range of wellness goals. Created using some of the highest quality ingredients, backed by science at a therapeutic dose, that's what they are known for, verified by tens of thousands of real customers all around the world. And they are always GF and GMO free, made with ingredients you can trust to high Australian standards. They have given me an exclusive discount code for you all. Head to jshealthvitamins.com and use the code OCD Stories at checkout for a generous 15% off the entire range. You can also head to the show notes for all the info, including the discount code. So thank you to Jessica and JS Health for supporting the show. So thank you to you guys, as always, for listening. I deeply appreciate it. And without further ado, here is Michael. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me on, Stu. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. I've met you, I don't know, quite a few times now in person over the years. So it's good to finally have you on. And although I've met you quite a few times and we've spoken a bit, I don't think I've really heard your story in any detail. So it'd be good to hear that now, and you can share it as much as you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first intrusive thought happened at the age of 6. I was riding home on the school bus from school, and a girl got sick all over the seat in the bus, and it just I was totally taken aback by that, and I thought, and I just had this wave of fear in me that, like, oh no, if I'm gonna get sick now on the bus. So I got home and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept ruminating on it over and over again. So the next day I got on the bus and I just had a full-on panic attack. And it was really, really difficult to get to school. And that was really the beginning of that. My parents really had to try to force me to get on the bus afterwards, and after that, and it got so bad that my mom ended up starting riding the bus with me on the way to school, and that was definitely it was hard to do because I had all my other kids I went to school with, and my mom was on there, so it was hard. And then I still couldn't kick the fear of worrying that I was going to get sick on the school bus. So my mom ended up having to start driving me to school. And at the time, we didn't know that that was not the right thing to do. So, but yeah, that was really tough to kick. And it took me a long time to get through that. And at the same time, and all that was happening, I was transitioning to going to special education classes for my learning disabilities. And I was going through that as well. And so I was going through quite a change at the time, and it was tough. So, and then after that, was when it was a few years later, but I saw this movie called My Girl. I don't know if you remember that movie.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, and at the time I idolized Macaulay Culkin, and he was my favorite actor. And then it looked like your feel good movie, and partly into the movie you find out he's allergic to bees, and then gets and then you find out that he gets stung by, and then at the end of the movie, excuse me, he gets stung by a whole bunch of bees, and he ends up dying. And you just see his glasses fall to the ground, and that was a really traumatic thing. But the worst part about it was they show the funeral service, and it was an open casket funeral. And so you see him in his lifeless body in the casket, and he just has all these bee stings all over his face. And I was so scared of that. And a panic just rushed over me. And that was, and then she runs over and she says, he needs his glasses. He needs his glasses. And it was just such a very dramatic thing. And I wasn't expecting that. And that's when I had just a whole bunch of intrusive thoughts starting to come over me. At first, I was worried I was going to get stung by a bee and die, or bees and die. And I went on a field trip to, and I did not want to go. We were supposed to go to the zoo, and I didn't want to go, but my teacher convinced me to finally go. I went, and what happened? I got stung by a bee. And I ended up being really, I was like panicking, and they had to rush me back to the school. I ended up being absolutely fine, but my mom came and got me, and that was just really, really traumatic for me. So, but that led into several other fears. At first I had a fear I was going to go blind, and then I had a real fear of vomiting, and when I was going to vomit, I was afraid I was going to die doing that. And then I had a really intense fear of contracting HIV, because at the time it was 1991, and Magic Johnson, the Los Angeles Lakers basketball star, just came out that he had HIV. And I was like, well, if he has it, then I'm worried I'm going to get it. And at the time, I didn't, understand how you could even get HIV at the time. So I just had, it was those three things at first. And then after that, was probably the worst one. And that was, I was afraid my food was poisoned, and I stopped eating, and I started losing a lot of weight. And it was really, it was really bad. I ended up, I wasn't sleeping anymore. I wasn't eating very much anymore. And when I was at school, I was very anxious all the time. And I was going to the nurse's office on a daily basis, calling, crying. And that was just really, really tough. And they would call my mom because they wouldn't know what to do with me. So and then my mom didn't know what to do with me either. So we were just at a loss because we didn't have any answers at the time. Um, and then when I managed to get through the school years, and when the summers was out, we would go to my grandma and grandpa's for a week, so my parents could take a vacation. And it wasn't any better. My intrusive thoughts were just as bad. I was crying all the time. I couldn't. My grandma and grandpa were up with me all hours of the night, so that was tough because I was really worried that I was going to get abandoned for my parents. I had this thought that my parents weren't going to come back for me. So we tried doing that for several years. And one year it got so bad, my uncle ended up driving me back home, the 5 hours. And then I didn't go back after that. I started therapy after I told my babysitter I was hearing voices and seeing visions of people in my head. And I was calling these people the spirit people because and they kind of resembled Jesus. And I don't know why that was, but they did. And they were telling me to do things or something would happen to my parents. So that was very confusing. And they just diagnosed it as an anxiety disorder. And then they thought, maybe it's schizophrenia, but that didn't end up being the case. So fast forward to 1998, I was at Menninger Clinic in Topeka when they were still there. And I was seeing a therapist, and she suspected that I had OCD. And we were like, well, what's OCD? And she explained it to us. And she ended up sending me to a specialist in at Menninger. And I saw him, and he diagnosed me as having obsessive compulsive disorder. And that's when I started doing a group therapy, ERP, and started taking medication. And I was already having a really tough year already. I was being bullied constantly at high school. So it got so bad, I ended up having to transfer high schools. So, but yeah, so after it got better for a while, but I always had a huge fear of change, and so I ended up starting working at Walgreens, and that was really, really tough for me because I feared any sort of change, and I had intrusive thoughts all the time. So, but I ended up, when I was working, I had a coworker, and I had worried. I saw my coworker walk in one day, and I just had this intense that that I had been intimate with them somehow, and it would went on for months and months, and I was calling my mom at work every day, and it ended up having my dad called my boss and talked to him and explained to him, that I was obsessive compulsive, and he totally understood, and thank goodness. So that happened, and I eventually got over that. And then after that, I had another breakdown, and which I was worried I had stolen money from the cash register at work. And I was coming home, checking my pockets every single day. And so I finally told my parents. And so we went and saw my med doctor. And finally, I went in there, and she didn't realize all three of us were coming in. But I sat down and I just broke down crying, and I just said, I can't do this anymore. It, it's, I'm exhausted going to work every day. So it was, very, yeah. So we ended up changing my medication. And then, my mom got, John Hirschfield's book, When a Family Member Has OCD. And my parents have always been so great about supporting me with my OCD and trying to find help for me and stuff like that. And my mom started Googling, and she found out that there was an IOCDF conference, and we had no idea this existed. So we found out it was going to be in Washington, D.C. that year. And then I went, and I was just like absolutely blown away by how many people were there that got me, understood me. And it was amazing. And I was really excited about it. And I wanted to start doing advocacy work right away. Um, so I ended up going home, and I called the IOCDF in Boston. And they said, well, there's not a whole lot you can really do from Topeka, Kansas at this time, but we have a local affiliate called OCD Kansas. And I got on I got on the email, and I emailed them, and they got back to me right away, and they asked if I'd like to volunteer helping with their walk. And I said, yeah, absolutely. So I helped volunteer with their walk. And then at the time, the president asked me, would you like to be on a conference call with us? And I said, sure. And so I did that, and that went really well. And then they asked me, are you going to Austin this year? And because the conference was in Austin that year. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. And so I helped out with the booth, OCD Kansas booth in Austin. And then that was really well worked out. And then they asked me to do one more conference call. And then that's when they asked me to become a board member with them. And that was just, I was not expecting that. And that was just really, I was so taken aback. I didn't know what to think. And it was just a great honor. And I'm still on the board to this day. So yeah, it's an awesome experience. So, and then, yeah, as always, I'm still working on my OCD all the time. I struggle still with religious scrupulosity. Like it's hard for me to look at like crosses or be in churches or anything like that with not having blasphemous thoughts about God. So that has been a challenge. And then my OCD really loves to attack my relationship OCD in terms of my friendships. I'm always worried people are mad at me, and I'm a big reassurance seeker. So that's something that I'm still working on to this day. And then lastly, my hit and run OCD is still a work in progress. It got One time I was just driving and I felt a bump and I just instantly thought, oh no, what if I hit somebody? And I went back and then it ended up becoming a major compulsion. And I just kept checking. And one time it got so bad, it was at night on the highway and I got off on the side of the highway and I went back and checked in the pitch black. I was walking on side of the highway just to make sure I didn't hit anybody. So so that is my story up to this point.
Well, thank you for sharing. And I'm glad you got on OCD Kansas's board. You deserve it. You're hardworking in the community. You're showing up to events. You're friendly. So yes, it's well deserved.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Yeah, and when you said at the beginning about the film My Girl,
Mm-hmm.
Talking about that really made me feel a lot of sadness, and it brought back a memory for me, which was when I was a kid. That film was deeply troubling for me also. I remember feeling incredibly sad by that scene you mentioned with the bees and the funeral. And so yeah, it was just well, I guess thank you for that, for in a good way, for helping me connect the dots there. But also shows the impact of when kids are so young and they see certain things, how detrimental that can be, you know? Therapy. So where are you at with that now? How's that been the last few years? Have you found a therapist that you really connect with? And
Yeah, so therapy's good. So I started with a new ERP therapist, and gosh, I can't even remember the month now, but she is awesome. She's really good about not giving me reassurance. I do have to do teletherapy with her because she's in another city in the state of Kansas right now. So, but yeah, she's amazing. I adore her to death, and we're working on relationship OCD and all sorts of different things. So that's going really well.
yeah, okay, good. I'm glad. And with your parents, and how's that sort of relationship now? Because do you still check in with them, and do you have to be careful not to ask for reassurance? Are they aware of like not giving you the reassurance and all of that stuff?
Yeah. So my parents, I'm not gonna lie, they sometimes give in.
Okay.
My reassurance can be kind of tricky at times. In terms of, I can be kind of, I shouldn't say tricky, sneaky about it, and I can ask for reassurance in other ways, but they've gotten a lot better about it. So
Good. Um, and obviously there's a lot of ISDF affiliates in America, obviously the different states. I don't know if every state has an ISDF affiliate. Do you know that? Or?
No, not every state has them. I don't know how many have them, but yeah, I don't know how many have them. There's still a lot of states that don't have them still.
Okay, fair enough. But there is quite a lot of the affiliates, which is great. So what's your experience been like working with them, and any advice, I guess, for anyone that wants to get involved with their local affiliate?
Yeah, I would just say, reach out and see what they say. I would say start with, if you have a local affiliate, see if you could start out by volunteering for a walk like I did, and just try to get involved that way. I know for OCD Kansas, we're going to try to do, a meet and greet later this year. And those are always great ways to meet people and get involved that way.
Yeah, really good point. So what's been helping you the most, do you think, in recent years?
Honestly, just um, being involved and being an advocate, honestly. Um, I I love the IOCDF events. Another great one that I love, and the last one I saw you at, Stu, was OCD Game Changers, and that's a fantastic one too. But just staying in touch with a lot of people I've met through both of those conferences is great, and it's really helped me um, stay in touch with people and stay involved in the community, and it just gives me a sense of happiness. So, and it was hard for me at first. When I left last year's conference, I was really, really depressed. I hit a big low, and it took me a while. And that's actually how I found my new ERP therapist. I reached out to her, and so yeah.
Okay, good, good. And were you able to sort of recover or bounce back from that?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we've been working on ERP, and yeah, I bounced back from it. I did do a bit of a med change through my med doctor, and with that and ERP, I bounced back. So it's been really good.
Okay, good. And with work, so you did mention how it affected you a couple of times.
Hmm.
Um, what's it like now at work with OCD?
I will say this is that going to work for me, because I have a lot of work anxiety, and it's like an exposure uh every day going to work, because I'm constantly worried people are mad at me. But and I try my best not to ask for reassurance, because some of my coworkers, like, I will say this, that a lot of my coworkers know I have OCD. They're very understanding about it and very supportive. I have a very supportive uh, bunch of employees that I work with. But once I get settled in, after a couple hours, my anxiety starts to go down. So it's good. I haven't had any more intrusive thoughts in terms of, anything like the worrying I'd been intimate with my coworker, or worrying I stole money out of the cash register, nothing like that. I just, I work on people. I definitely am still working on worrying about people being mad at me, but and working on not asking for reassurance about that. But other than that, work's going really well.
Brilliant. Good. I'm glad. And obviously there you said you're worrying about people being mad at you. And I'm sure you knowing who you are, you naturally give good customer service. But as we all know, we can't please every customer. And there's always one
Hmm.
customer that no matter how good your customer service is, they just want to rip you apart.
Hmm.
For whatever reason, they're going through their day. But when that happens, how do you handle that? How does it affect you or trigger you if it does?
I just try not to take it personally. I try to say, maybe that customer has something going on that I don't know about,
Yeah.
and I get it. I go through times like that too. So I my tip for that is just try to not take it personally. You don't know what that person might be going through right now. So
True, true. Good point. Good point. Okay, so was there in your journey at any point, was there like a light bulb moment where either you understood how OCD worked or you kind of got how the treatment worked or anything like that?
so it took me a while to really understand how OCD worked. It was with my first ERP therapist that I understood that, like, exposing yourself to the exposure, doing it, writing it down, playing it on a loop tape, whatever, works for you. Um, that was kind of a light bulb moment as to how I was able to understand OCD. And I'm still constantly learning new things about OCD too. So,
Yeah, yeah, good point. Good point. Okay, so you could pick up the phone to that 20-year-old Michael. What do you tell him?
good question. I would say that just tell them that, hey, you're gonna get through this, and you're gonna meet amazing people along the way. So
Nice. Yeah, I like it. Good advice. And you've got a billboard in Topeka, Kansas. What do you want written on that billboard?
I would say you can do hard things.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Very good point. Um, I'm trying to think if I have any other questions. I'm sure they will come to me. But yeah, I guess, is there anything else you wanted to share today or say that you haven't?
I would say that yeah, definitely. Even though you have OCD, you can still live a very happy, rewarding, meaningful life.
Yeah.
You know, just because you have OCD doesn't mean it has to be the end.
Hmm.
OCD robbed me of my childhood, but it's given me a lot of friends and advocates that, you know, I'll have for the rest of my life. So I try to take that
Yeah.
as a win-win.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Good point. Yeah, it doesn't have to define you, as you say. Um, Brilliant. Look, thank you so much. It's been great hearing your story finally in detail after all these years, and I'm happy to share it with all my listeners.
Thank you so much for having me on, Sue. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. And thank you to our Patreons who helped make this episode possible. And if you would like to find out more about Patreon and the rewards and benefits, then there will be a link in the episode description. If you enjoy the OCD Stories podcast and would like to support us with a one-time tip/donation, please go to theocdstories.com/support. All tips, no matter how large or small, are greatly appreciated. Please subscribe and rate the show wherever you listen to the podcast. And thank you to JS Health. And if you would like to get 15% off their entire range, head to jshealthvitamins.com and use the code OCD Stories at the checkout. The link will be in the episode description. And thank you to NOCD for supporting our work. And if you want to find out more about NOCD, head to go.treatmyocd.com/the-OCD stories or click the link in the episode description. And quick disclaimer, guys, this podcast is not therapy. It is not a replacement for therapy. Please seek treatment from a trained professional. And until we speak, take care.